Zoe Parker was preparing for a Sunday walk with Lupina when her golden retriever bolted toward the most irresistible smell in the building. 10 seconds later, her perfectly trained dog was sitting in a stranger's penthouse, surrounded by an entire Italian family, begging for lasagna. The gorgeous man at the door refused to return Lupina until Zoe stayed for lunch. She thought it was just about the dog. She had no idea the man holding her golden's leash ran more than a property empire. Tell me where you're watching from. Because today you'll discover that sometimes the best love stories start with a food-obsessed dog and a family that never closes their door. Zoe grabbed Lupina's leash from the hook by her apartment door, already mentally planning their usual Sunday afternoon route through Tribeca. Down to the river, past the dog park, maybe stop for coffee at that place that gave Lupina puppuccinos, even though she absolutely didn't need the extra calories. Come on, girl. Let's go. Lupina trotted over obediently, sat perfectly still while Zoe clipped the leash to her collar. Good dog. Well trained. They'd done this routine 100 times. Zoe opened her apartment door, stepped into the hallway. Wait here, Lupina. Mommy forgot the poop bags. She left the door slightly ajar and went back inside to grab the bags from the kitchen counter. 30 seconds. That's all it took. When she returned to the hallway, Lupina was gone. Lupina? Zoe looked left, then right. Empty corridor. Lupina, where are you? Then she heard it. Voices, loud, warm, speaking rapid Italian. And underneath that, the unmistakable sound of her dog's happy panting. The sounds were coming from down the hall. From the penthouse apartment she'd never paid much attention to, because whoever lived there kept to themselves. Zoe walked toward the noise, her heart starting to race. How had Lupina gotten in there? The door must have been open, but why would it be open? As she got closer, the smell hit her. Oh God. Tomato sauce, garlic, fresh bread, something rich and meaty that made her mouth water even in her panic. That's why Lupina had bolted. The dog had a nose like a bloodhound and zero impulse control when it came to food. The penthouse door was wide open. Through it, Zoe could see organized chaos. A massive dining table covered with platters of food, at least a dozen people, ranging from elderly to small children, talking over each other in Italian. And right in the middle of it all, sitting perfectly, tail wagging hopefully, was Lupina. A little boy, maybe 5, was petting her. Zio Renzo, posso tenere il cane? Can I keep the dog? No, Matteo. The dog has an owner. The voice was deep, amused, and did something strange to Zoe's nervous system. She knocked on the open door frame. Everyone looked. The man who stood from the head of the table was unfairly attractive. Tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair just starting to show silver at the temples. He was dressed casually, jeans and a black Henley, barefoot, but he moved with the kind of confidence that said he owned every room he walked into. He was also holding Lupina's leash, which he must have grabbed from where it had fallen in the hallway. I am so sorry, Zoe started, her words tumbling out. She never does this, she's trained. I just turned my back for 1 second, and she must have smelled your cooking, and I don't know how she got in here, but I'm so sorry for interrupting your lunch. He smiled. It was a small smile, but it transformed his entire face from intimidating to devastating. You must be Lupina's owner. Yes, Zoe Parker. I live down the hall. I'm so sorry. She's never done anything like this before. She has good taste. He scratched behind Lupina's ears, and the traitor leaned into his touch like she'd known him her whole life. My mother's cooking is irresistible, even to very polite dogs who probably know they shouldn't be here. An older woman appeared from what must have been the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She had kind eyes and the same dark hair as the man, though hers was streaked with gray. She took one look at Lupina, and her face lit up. Che bella. How beautiful. She said something rapid in Italian to the man, who responded in the same language. Zoe caught her own name and the word pranzo. Lunch. My mother says your dog is charming and clearly has excellent judgment about food. She also says you should stay for lunch. Oh, I couldn't possibly. She also says Lupina already ate some of my lasagna, so you owe us. Her rules, not mine. His eyes were dancing with amusement now. I'm Renzo, by the way. Renzo Valli. Nice to meet you. But really, I should just take Lupina and get out of your way. I'm not giving her back until you eat. He said it calmly, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. Those are the terms. Lunch for dog. Fair trade. Zoe stared at him. You're holding my dog hostage for lunch? I prefer to think of it as an incentive for you to experience my mother's cooking. Trust me, you won't regret it. Behind him, his mother was already setting another place at the table. The little boy, Matteo, was still petting Lupina, who had apparently decided this was her new favorite place in the entire world. Zoe looked at her dog, at the man who was absolutely not going to budge, at the table full of food that smelled incredible, at the family who were all watching this interaction with obvious interest and amusement. This is insane. Maybe, but you're already here. Lupina's comfortable, and my mother will be personally offended if you leave now. Trust me, you don't want that. From the table, his mother called out something in Italian. Renzo translated. She says to tell you there's plenty of food, and she made tiramisu for dessert. Tiramisu? Homemade, from my grandmother's recipe. Zoe sighed. She was going to do this. She was actually going to have lunch with a penthouse full of strangers because her dog had committed breaking and entering for lasagna. Fine, but just lunch. Then I'm taking Lupina home and having a serious conversation with her about boundaries. Renzo's smile widened. Deal. He guided her to the table, introducing her to what felt like 24 people but was actually about 12. His mother, Lucia. His two brothers, Carlo and Dante, with their wives and children. An aunt, an uncle, a few cousins. Everyone was warm, welcoming, talking over each other, pressing food on her before she'd even sat down properly. Lupina had sprawled out under the table near Lucia's feet, looking supremely content. She's made herself at home, Zoe observed. Smart dog. That's the best spot in the house, closest to where food mysteriously falls. Renzo sat beside her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something subtle and expensive. How long have you had her? 3 years. I got her right after I moved to New York. She's been my constant companion through every showing, every difficult client, every late night of paperwork. You're in real estate? Yes. High-end properties in Manhattan. I work for Morrison and Associates. I know that firm. Good reputation. Something flickered across his face, there and gone too quickly to read. You must be good at what you do if they hired you. I work hard, and I genuinely love it. Matching people with their perfect home, helping them see the potential in a space, it's satisfying. Lucia placed a plate in front of her that was piled high with lasagna, bread, salad. More food than Zoe could eat in 3 meals. Mangia, Lucia insisted. She says eat, Renzo translated unnecessarily. And before you say you can't eat all that, don't bother. In Italian family meals, I'm full translates to, I have room for 3 more servings. Just accept it. Resistance is futile. Zoe took a bite of lasagna and nearly moaned. It was incredible. Rich, perfectly seasoned, the pasta sheets tender, the cheese melted to perfection. Oh my God! I know. Renzo was watching her with satisfaction. My mother's been making that recipe for 40 years. It's dangerous. People have been known to make life-altering decisions based on that lasagna. I believe it. I'd make life-altering decisions for this lasagna. Careful. She'll hold you to that. The The lunch was chaos in the best way. Conversations in English and Italian happening simultaneously. Children running around between courses. Someone's phone ringing with what sounded like a soccer match. Lucia constantly getting up to bring more food despite everyone insisting she sit down and eat. Matteo kept sneaking pieces of bread to Lupina when he thought no one was looking. His sister Sofia, maybe 7, was braiding a napkin into Lupina's collar like it was a bow. A cousin was showing Lupina a toy truck, very seriously explaining in Italian how it worked, as if the dog could understand. "They've adopted her," Carlo's wife Maria said with a smile. "Good luck getting her back." "I'm starting to realize that," Zoe said, watching Lupina soak up the attention like she'd been born for this exact moment. Across the table, Dante said something to Renzo in rapid Italian. Zoe caught her own name, and the words, bella and intelligente. Beautiful and intelligent. Renzo responded in the same language, his tone warning. His brothers laughed. "They're talking about you," Maria translated quietly. "Saying you're too good for him, that he better not mess this up." "I can hear you," Renzo said in English, giving his brothers a look that probably worked better in business meetings than family lunches. "We're just saying the truth," Dante replied, switching to English. "This one's special. Don't do that thing you do where you work too much and forget to call." "I don't do that." Both his brothers and his mother said "see" at the same time. Even Lupina barked, as if agreeing. "Even the dog knows," Carlo said, delighted. Zoe was trying not to laugh. Renzo looked simultaneously annoyed and embarrassed, which was adorable on a man who otherwise seemed completely in control of everything. "What else are you telling her about me?" Renzo asked. "That you're bossy," Sophia piped up. "Mama said so." "Sophia!" Maria looked mortified. "But you did. You said Zio Renzo is bossy, but he means well." The entire table erupted in laughter. Even Renzo was smiling, shaking his head. Lucia stood, kissed the top of Renzo's head. "She's not wrong. You're just like your father. Bossy but good heart." She turned to Zoe. "He'll boss you around too. Just boss him back. Works every time." "I'll remember that," Zoe said. "Good girl." Lucia patted her shoulder. "You're smart, I can tell. Smart women don't put up with nonsense. Even from handsome men who think they run everything." "Mama, please stop giving her ideas," Renzo said, but his eyes were warm. "Too late," Zoe replied. "I'm taking notes." "So, how long have you lived in the building?" Carlo, one of Renzo's brothers, asked her. "About a year. I moved in when I got promoted to senior agent. Finally could afford something in Tribeca instead of my shoebox in the East Village." "And you like it? The building?" "I love it. Great location, beautiful apartments, good security." "Why?" Carlo and Renzo exchanged a look. Carlo grinned. "No reason." Zoe had the distinct feeling she was missing something, but before she could ask, Lucia was pressing more food on her and asking about her family, where she was from, if she was married. "Mama," Renzo said with a warning in his voice. "What?" "I'm just asking questions, making conversation." Lucia turned to Zoe with innocent eyes. "You're not married?" "No, ma'am. Not married. Not even dating anyone right now." "Bella and successful and single. What's wrong with men these days?" She said something in Italian to Renzo that made his brothers laugh and made him look slightly pained. After lunch, after tiramisu that was worth every calorie, after espresso that was so strong, Zoe felt immediately awake. She finally stood to leave. "Thank you so much for the meal. It was incredible, but I really should get Lupina home." Lucia hugged her like they'd known each other for years. "You come back any time. Bring the dog. Sundays we always have family lunch. You're welcome." "That's very kind, but I couldn't intrude." "Not intruding, inviting. There's a difference." Lucia looked at her son. Renzo, you make sure she comes back. Yes, Mama. Renzo walked Zoe to the door, Lupina trotting happily between them. I really am sorry about Lupina breaking into your lunch, Zoe said. Don't be. It was the most interesting thing that's happened at Sunday lunch in years. Usually it's just my brothers arguing about soccer. Still, I promise she won't do it again. He handed her Lupina's leash. Their fingers brushed. Electricity shot up her arm. She's welcome to come back, and you should too. My mother meant what she said. Sundays, we always have family lunch, doors always open. That's a very Italian tradition. It is, and we take it seriously. He leaned against the doorframe. But even if you don't come for lunch, I'd like to see you again. Maybe somewhere with fewer relatives and less food theft. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. Is this you asking me out? This is me saying I'd like to get to know you better, and I think Lupina would appreciate having regular access to my mother's cooking. Using my dog as a negotiating tactic, that's low. I'm using every advantage I have, so what do you say? She looked at him. This gorgeous man who'd fed her family lunch and made her laugh and was looking at her like she was the most interesting person he'd met in a long time. Okay, yes, I'd like that. Good, I'll find you. We're neighbors after all. Shouldn't be too hard. She went back to her apartment feeling lighter than she had in months. Lupina trotted beside her, looking extremely pleased with herself. You're a menace, Zoe told her. But I guess I owe you one. The following Sunday, Zoe prepared for their walk. Leash, collar, poop bags, everything in order. Okay, Lupina, let's go. And we're going straight to the park. No detours, no Italian penthouses, just you, me, and the river. She opened the door. Lupina sat. Zoe grabbed her keys, feeling optimistic. Maybe last week was a fluke. Maybe Lupina had learned her lesson about breaking into neighbors' apartments. She turned around to find Lupina already halfway down the hall, heading straight for Renzo's door. Lupina! We haven't even left yet! The dog was scratching at Renzo's door, tail wagging frantically, making small whining sounds of desperate need. Zoe stood in her doorway, hands on hips. You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? You absolute traitor. Lupina looked back with those innocent golden eyes that said, who, me? Then went back to scratching the door. We had a deal. I feed you premium food. I take you to the dog park. I let you sleep in my bed even though you take up 3/4 of it. And this is how you repay me? By choosing Italian food over your own mother? Lupina's tail wagged harder. Translation. Yes, absolutely. Italian food wins every time. Renzo opened the door, already smiling like he'd been expecting this, which he probably had. She's back. She's a con artist in a fur coat. Don't be fooled by the cute face. Too late. My mother already set a plate for her. And before you ask, yes, an actual plate. With a placemat. Lupina has a designated seat at the table now. You're joking. I'm not. Matteo insisted. There was a whole family vote. Lupina won by unanimous decision. Zoe looked past him to see Matteo waving excitedly from the dining room. The table was already set, and sure enough, there was a plate on the floor near Lucia's chair. A nice plate, with a folded napkin beside it. Your family has lost their minds. They really have. Are you coming in, or are you going to make Lupina choose between us? Because I have to warn you, my mother made osso buco. Lupina will absolutely choose osso buco. As if to prove his point, Lupina squeezed past Renzo into the apartment, heading straight for her designated spot. I've lost her, Zoe said. Completely lost her. She's not even my dog anymore. She's practicing polygamy. She has 2 families now. Very modern. I hate that I'm competing with your mother's cooking for my dog's affection. If it helps, you'd lose that competition too. Everyone loses to my mother's cooking. It's not personal. Zoe followed him inside, shaking her head. The family greeted her with the easy warmth of people who'd already decided she was one of them. Lucia hugged her, asked about her week, and immediately started piling food on her plate before she'd even properly sat down. "Mangia, you're too skinny," Lucia said, adding more braciole. "I'm really not." More food appeared. Resistance was indeed futile. This time Zoe sat beside Renzo without hesitation. His hand found hers under the table, squeezed gently. Like this was normal. Like her showing up for Sunday lunch with her food-obsessed dog was exactly where she was supposed to be. And maybe it was. During lunch, Zoe noticed Lucia and Carlo's wife Maria having a whispered conversation in Italian, both glancing at her and Renzo with knowing smiles. When Zoe made eye contact, they didn't even have the grace to look away, just smiled wider. "They're matchmaking," Renzo murmured. "Ignore them." I gathered. "Your mother looks very pleased with herself." "She's been trying to marry me off for years. You're the first person I've ever brought to Sunday lunch who wasn't family. She's taking this as a sign from God." "Is it?" He looked at her, something warm and serious in his eyes. Maybe. Her heart did that complicated thing again. The thing it had been doing a lot lately around Renzo Valley. Lunch was just as chaotic and wonderful as the week before, and the week after that, and the week after that. By the fourth Sunday, Zoe stopped pretending she was going to the park first. She just showed up at Renzo's door at noon, Lupina pulling her down the hall with single-minded determination. "Your dog has fully defected," Renzo observed one afternoon after lunch, watching Lupina sprawl across his living room floor in a patch of sunlight. "I'm aware. She likes you better than me now." "Not better, just equally. She's expanding her family. She's a social climber, trading up for better food." He laughed. They were alone in his living room. The rest of the family had migrated to the kitchen for coffee and dessert, but Renzo had suggested they stay here, give Lupina some quiet after she'd been thoroughly spoiled by 3 children for 2 hours. The apartment was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Art on the walls that even Zoe's untrained eye recognized as expensive. Everything tastefully decorated but comfortable. This wasn't just a showpiece. Someone actually lived here. "Can I ask you something?" Zoe said. "Of course." "How do you afford this place? I mean, I'm in real estate. I know what penthouses in Tribeca go for. And you have a whole family you feed every Sunday. I'm not trying to be nosy. I'm just curious what you do." "My family owns property. Quite a bit of it, actually. Buildings throughout Manhattan, some in Brooklyn, a few commercial developments. It's been the family business for 3 generations. "Wait, your family owns buildings? Like multiple buildings?" "Valley Property Holdings. My grandfather started it in the 50s. My father expanded it. Now I run it with my brothers." Something clicked in Zoe's mind. "Valley Property Holdings. I've heard of that. You own half the high-end real estate in Manhattan." "Not half, maybe a quarter." He smiled slightly. "We've been doing this a long time. We know the market." "Do you own this building?" "We do. Have for 20 years. Zoe blinked. "I'm paying rent to you?" "Technically to the company, but yes." "And you didn't mention this before?" "You didn't ask. And I liked that you didn't know who I was. You just saw me as the guy with the Italian family who feeds your dog too much. I still see you as that. But now I also see you as my landlord, which is weird." "Not your landlord. The building's owner. There's a distinction. I don't handle day-to-day operations. That's what property managers are for." He shifted to face her more fully. "Does it bother you? That I own the building?" "No, just surprises me. You don't act like some real estate mogul." "Because I'm not. I'm just a guy who inherited a family business and tries to run it well." He paused. "Have dinner with me. Friday night. Just the 2 of us. No family, no dog. Without your entire family watching? Without my entire family watching. And without Lupina stealing food off the table? Especially without Lupina. Though I have to warn you, my mother's already planning our wedding. She told me yesterday. In detail, including the cake flavor. Zoe choked on her espresso. We've known each other 3 weeks. Italian mothers work fast. She had me married off after the first Sunday. You staying for a second lunch sealed your fate. And what do you think? He leaned closer. I think I'd like to take you to dinner. Somewhere quiet, where I can actually hear you talk without my nephew screaming about dinosaurs. That does sound nice. Is that a yes? That's a yes. But I'm not discussing wedding cake flavors. Deal. I'll save that for date 3. Their first real date was everything Zoe hadn't known she wanted. Renzo took her to a small Italian restaurant in the West Village, intimate and quiet, with incredible food and wine that tasted like it cost more than her monthly grocery budget. They talked for 3 hours. About her childhood in Chicago, her parents who were both teachers, her decision to move to New York and chase the dream of working in high-end real estate. About his family, the pressure of living up to his grandfather's legacy, the love-hate relationship with being responsible for a business empire. He told her about his father, who died 3 years ago. He had a heart attack in his office. 1 minute he was reviewing contracts, the next he was gone. I wasn't ready to take over. I don't think you're ever ready for that kind of responsibility. But you do it anyway, because people are counting on you. Do you resent it? The pressure? Sometimes. But mostly I'm grateful. He built something real. Something that employs people, houses families, creates opportunities. That's worth the pressure. He paused. What about you? Do you love what you do, or do you do it because you're good at it? Both. I love the moment when a client walks into the right space and you can see it click, like the apartment chooses them as much as they choose it. That sounds ridiculous. It doesn't. It sounds like you understand that spaces have energy, that finding the right home is about more than square footage and amenities. Exactly. My parents thought I was crazy leaving Chicago, chasing this career in a city where I knew no one. But I couldn't imagine doing anything else. They must be proud of you now. They are, though my mom still sends me care packages like I'm in college and can't feed myself. Last month she sent deep dish pizza, frozen, in the mail, from Chicago. He laughed, and the sound did things to her. My mother does the same, shows up at my apartment with containers of food like I haven't eaten in weeks. I run a property empire, but she still thinks I'll starve without her. Italian mothers and Midwestern mothers, very similar energy. We should introduce them. They'd either become best friends or try to outmother each other. Could go either way. The conversation flowed so easily, it felt like they'd known each other for years instead of weeks. She learned he'd wanted to be an architect, but his father needed him in the family business. He learned she'd been engaged once, 5 years ago, to someone who wanted her to be smaller, quieter, less ambitious. She'd walked away and never looked back. Good, Renzo said fiercely. Anyone who wants you smaller doesn't deserve you at all. By the time dessert arrived, they'd covered everything from favorite books to biggest fears to what they wanted from life. She wanted to build something that mattered, leave her mark on the city's skyline through the homes she helped create. He wanted to legitimize his family's business completely, make it something his future children could be proud of without reservation. Future children. He said it so naturally, like it was a given that he'd have them someday. She wondered if he was thinking about that future with her, and immediately told herself to calm down. It was a first date, even if it felt like so much more. At the end of the night, he walked her to her apartment door. They'd taken the elevator up together in comfortable silence, the tension building with each floor. I had a really good time, Zoe said, fumbling slightly with her keys. So did I. He stepped closer. Close enough that she had to tilt her head back to look at him. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Can I kiss you? You're asking permission? Always. Especially for the first one. Her heart melted completely. This man, who commanded rooms and ran an empire, was asking permission to kiss her like it was the most important question in the world. She answered by pulling him down to her. The kiss was soft at first, testing, gentle. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. She made a small sound and pressed closer, and the kiss deepened, went from sweet to scorching in seconds. Her back hit her door, and his other hand found her waist, pulling her against him. She tangled her fingers in his hair and kissed him like she'd been wanting to, since the moment he'd opened his door holding Lupina last week. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. That was... Yeah, she agreed, still trying to catch her breath. Can I see you again? Not just at Sunday lunch? Actually see you. Take you to dinner, spend time with you. All the traditional dating things I'm apparently very out of practice with. You seem to be doing fine so far. I'm improvising. You make me want to do things right. I'd really like that. All of those things. He kissed her once more, quick and sweet, then forced himself to step back. Good night, Zoe. Good night, Renzo. She floated into her apartment. Lupina was waiting, tail wagging, sensing something important had happened. Don't look at me like that. Yes, I kissed him. Yes, it was amazing. And yes, you can be smug because if you hadn't escaped into his apartment, none of this would have happened. You're a genius. An evil, food-obsessed genius. But a genius nonetheless. Lupina's tail wagged harder. She knew. Over the next several weeks, they fell into a pattern. Sunday lunches with the family became sacred. But they also had their own time. Dinners, walks through the city, quiet evenings in his apartment or hers. She learned he was an early riser who made incredible espresso. He learned she was absolutely useless before 9 a.m. and needed coffee before conversation. She learned he spoke 4 languages and had studied art history in college. He learned she'd wanted to be an architect, but pivoted to real estate when she realized she was better at selling spaces than designing them. One Tuesday evening, she found him in the building's lobby, talking to 2 men in expensive suits. The conversation looked serious. When they saw her, the men immediately straightened, said something to Renzo, and left. Everything okay? She asked. Fine, just business. They looked very serious for property management. High-stakes negotiations often are. He kissed her cheek. Want to grab dinner? There's a new place in Soho I've been wanting to try. She let it go, but she noticed that he had security, not just building security, personal security. A man named Paolo who was always somewhere nearby, discreet but present. Why do you need security? She asked one night over dinner at his place. Some of our properties are high value. We handle expensive art, luxury developments. Security is necessary. It made sense. But something about the way he said it felt incomplete. Like there was more he wasn't telling her. She didn't push, not yet. 2 months into dating, Renzo cooked for her at his place. Real cooking, not just ordering in. He made risotto from scratch, standing at the stove stirring for 20 minutes while she sat at the counter watching. You're very patient, she observed. Risotto requires patience. Rush it and you ruin it. Some things are worth taking your time on. The way he looked at her when he said it made heat pool in her stomach. They ate on his couch, some Italian film playing on the TV that neither of them were really watching. Lupina was sprawled on the floor, having spent the day being spoiled by Lucia and was now in a food coma. Ti amo, he said softly. She looked up from her wine. What does that mean? It means I love you. He set down his glass, turned to face her fully. I know it's fast. We've only known each other 2 months. But I don't do anything halfway, Zoe. And I love you. Her heart felt too big for her chest. I love you too. Even though this is insane. And we met because my dog has no impulse control. Best lack of impulse control I've ever encountered. She kissed him, soft and deep and full of promise. Stay with me tonight, she whispered. Are you sure? I'm sure. They made love in his bed with the city lights glowing through the windows, and Lupina snoring in the living room. It was tender and intense and perfect. And Zoe knew with absolute certainty that she'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love with Renzo Valli. 3 months into their relationship, reality intruded. Zoe had a showing in a building in Midtown. Luxury condo, asking price in the millions. Client who'd been pre-approved and seemed serious. Everything was going smoothly until the client asked the standard question. Who owns the building? Valli Property Holdings, Zoe answered automatically. They're one of the most respected property management companies in Manhattan. The client's face changed, went from interested to tense in a heartbeat. Valli? As in Renzo Valli? Yes, why? And you work for them? No, I work for Morrison & Associates, but I'm familiar with Valli Holdings. They're excellent to work with. Why do you ask? The client was already backing toward the door. I need to think about it. I'll call you. He was gone before Zoe could respond, leaving her standing in an empty apartment wondering what the hell had just happened. That night, she Googled Renzo Valli. She found articles about Valli Property Holdings, business profiles, success stories about their developments. But underneath that, on forums and in the comments sections, she found whispers, rumors, speculation about the Valli family being connected, about old money ties to traditional Italian business operations, about influence that went beyond just real estate. Her stomach sank. She went to Renzo's apartment that evening without calling first. He opened the door looking surprised but pleased. Zoe, I wasn't expecting you. Everything okay? I need you to be honest with me. About everything. His expression immediately became guarded. Come in. She walked into his living room, the space that had become so familiar, and turned to face him. I had a showing today. The client asked who owned the building. When I said Valli Holdings, he practically ran out of there. Then I Googled you, and I found things, rumors, about your family being more than just property developers. Renzo was very still. What kind of rumors? That you're connected. That Valli isn't just a legitimate business. That there's more to it. She took a breath. Tell me the truth, Renzo. What is your family? He looked at her for a long moment. Then he walked to his bar cart, poured 2 glasses of whiskey, and handed her one. Sit down, please. She sat. He sat beside her, close but not touching. You're right. There's more to my family than property management. He took a drink, like he needed the fortitude. My great-grandfather came to New York from Sicily in 1947. He brought with him traditions, connections, a way of doing business that was very old world. He built the property business legitimately, but he also built something else. An organization. A family in the traditional Italian sense. You're telling me you're Mafia. I'm telling you my family has operated in traditional Italian business structures for 3 generations. The properties are real, legitimate, profitable. But yes, there are other operations. Protection for local businesses, territory management, financial services that exist in gray areas, import and export that doesn't always follow every regulation. Zoe felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. You're part of organized crime. I'm the head of the Valli family organization. When my father died, leadership passed to me. The property business is what I'm passionate about, but the organization is my responsibility, my legacy. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to love me first. The man, not the complications. I was going to tell you, Zoe, but I needed you to know me, to trust me, before you knew everything else. She stood up, paced to the windows. I need a drink to process this, a big one. You're holding one, a bigger one. He poured her more whiskey. She drank it, felt the burn, let it steady her. Then she turned to look at him. Tell me everything, no more hiding. If I'm going to process this, I need all of it. So he told her, about the structure of the organization, about the legitimate businesses that were his pride, and the less legitimate operations that were necessary for territory and protection, about the rules he followed, the lines he wouldn't cross, about how he'd never dealt drugs, never hurt civilians, ran everything with a code of honor his grandfather had taught him. The properties are real, he said. Everything you've seen, everything I've told you about that part of my life, that's true. I love that work. It's what I want to be known for. But the organization exists, and I can't walk away from it. It's my family's legacy, my responsibility to the people who depend on us. Zoe sat back down on the couch. Her head was spinning. The man she loved ran a Mafia family. This was insane. Are you in danger? Am I in danger? I have security for a reason. Paolo and others, but you're not involved in operations. You're not a target, and I'll make sure you stay safe, always. What if someone finds out about us, uses me to get to you? Then they'll discover why it's a very bad idea to threaten what's mine. You're under my protection, Zoe. Anyone who touches you answers to me. That's not a threat. That's a promise. She looked at him. Really looked at him. The man who'd fed her lunch with his family, who cooked her risotto and loved her dog, who'd been patient and kind and everything she'd wanted, and also apparently a Mafia boss. I'm terrified, she said quietly. I'm overwhelmed. But I don't stop loving someone because their life is complicated. I just need honesty. Complete honesty. No more hiding. You have my word. Anything you want to know, I'll tell you. I promise. And my safety is my top priority. Always has been. She drank more whiskey. Let the reality settle over her. She could leave, walk away, go back to her normal life with her normal job and her normal dog, who'd stolen Italian food that one time. Or she could stay. Choose this man, knowing everything he was, everything he did, the danger and the complications and the weight of his world. I love you, she finally said. I love you and I'm choosing to stay. But I need boundaries. I don't want to know operational details. I don't want to be involved. I just need to know I'm safe. That we're safe. Relief washed over his face. He pulled her into his arms, held her like she was precious. Ti amo, Zoe. Thank you. For staying. For choosing me. Don't make me regret it. Never. They held each other for a long time, processing, adjusting to this new reality. When they finally pulled apart, he said, Any questions? Anything you need to know? Just one. Lupina. Is she safe too? Obviously, she's family. Anyone who threatens her answers to my mother, which is actually more terrifying than answering to me. Despite everything, Zoe laughed. Over the next several months, life continued. But different. Better, in some ways. Renzo kept his promise of complete honesty. When she asked questions, he answered. Not operational details, but enough that she understood his world. She met more of his business associates, learned to recognize who was legitimate property management and who was organization, understood the structure, the hierarchy, the way everything fit together. Sunday lunches remained sacred. Lucia had fully adopted her, asking about work and offering unsolicited advice about Renzo. The family embraced her completely. 4 months in, she had a problem at work. A competitor had been spreading rumors that Zoe was connected to the Valley family in inappropriate ways, that doing business with her was dangerous. She'd lost 2 major clients in a week. She told Renzo over dinner at his place, frustrated and angry. I worked hard for those clients, years of relationship building. And now someone's destroying my reputation because of who I'm dating. Give me a name. Renzo, no. Not like that. I'll fix it the right way, legal, appropriate. But I can fix it. How? Trust me. 3 days later, the rumors stopped. The competitor issued a formal apology. Zoe got her clients back, plus a new one the competitor lost in the aftermath. What did you do? She asked Renzo that evening. I had a conversation with the CEO of the rival firm, reminded them that I own the building where their office is located, and that their lease is up for renewal in 6 months. Very polite conversation. No threats, just facts. That's not exactly ethical. Neither was spreading lies about you. Sometimes you fight fire with fire. Very controlled, very carefully applied fire. She should probably be concerned. Instead, she was just relieved, and maybe a little impressed. 6 months after Lupina had escaped into Renzo's penthouse chasing lasagna, Zoe stood in his kitchen watching him cook. It was Sunday evening, after family lunch, just the 2 of them and the dog. What are you making? She asked, sipping wine. Risotto, your favorite. You spoil me. That's the plan. She'd technically still kept her apartment, but she spent most nights here, in his place. Her clothes were in his closet, her toothbrush in his bathroom. Lupina had claimed the window seat as her own, and spent more time here than in Zoe's apartment. They were basically living together. They just hadn't made it official. After dinner, Renzo seemed nervous. He kept fidgeting with his wine glass, looking at her and then away. What's wrong? She asked. Nothing's wrong. I just need to tell you something. Ask you something. Okay. Lupina, vieni qui. Come here. The dog trotted over, tail wagging. Zoe noticed something attached to her collar. A small box. Her heart stopped. Renzo, what? 6 months ago, your dog escaped into my apartment chasing my mother's lasagna. Best thing that ever happened to me. He took the box off Lupina's collar, got down on one knee. You've seen every part of my world. The family, the business, the complications. You chose to stay. Chose me. And I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret that choice. He opened the box. The ring was beautiful. Simple but stunning. A sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. You've made me happier than I thought possible. You've brought light into my life. Challenged me to be better. Loved me despite everything I am. Marry me, Zoe Parker. Let Lupina officially have 2 homes. Let me make you risotto for the next 50 years. Let me love you for the rest of my life. Marry me. Tears were streaming down her face. Yes, God. Yes. Yes to everything. He slid the ring onto her finger, stood, pulled her into a kiss that tasted like promises, and forever. Lupina barked, loudly, probably wanting attention, possibly wanting food, definitely wanting to be included. Your dog just approved, Renzo murmured against her lips. Our dog, Zoe corrected. She's been yours since day 1 anyway. Our dog, our life, our future. I love you. Ti amo, Zoe. More than you'll ever know. They stood in his kitchen, wrapped in each other's arms, the city glowing outside the windows, Lupina dancing around their feet. A golden retriever with no impulse control had brought them together. Love had made them stay. And this was just the beginning. This is where their engagement begins. But the real story? Planning an Italian wedding, navigating family dynamics, the challenges of being married to a mafia boss? That's a whole other tale. Want part 2? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more mafia romance stories. Join our members area for exclusive content. And hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.